Greetings, YouTube. I have a Substack on my phone that deals with RPG questions. Oh, I don't have my light on. Shoot. Um, that deals with RPG stuff, and thankfully, it seems to be Nazi free. It's a problem that Substack has. Um, and one of the things someone asked about is that is an unconscious person considered to be willing for certain spells? Now, I'm a first aider at work. In fact, I just today arranged for my next scheduled bit of training. You have to get trained every couple of years. Um, and one of the things that we learn is the Good Samaritan law. Now, a Good Samaritan law is that if you come upon an unconscious person, the presumption is that that person wants your assistance. They do not want you to just walk away and leave them there potentially to die. I believe at one time, I don't know if it's still true in Vermont, you are legally required to offer aid because the state is so sparsely populated in certain spots. If you don't help that person, no one may ever come by and help them ever again. Some places don't have that presumption of responsibility. But if you do choose to engage with an unconscious individual, so long as the surrounding area is safe, always figure it out if you can why they're unconscious, why they're not moving, because you don't want to become victim number two. Um, the presumption is that you, if you were in that position, would want help, so you will offer help to them. Reciprocity here. Um, so I think that same logic should apply to spellcasting. If someone is lying there unconscious, using a spell to assist them I think would make them a willing target for the spell. Now, the intent of the caster is, I think, what really matters. And this is where things started to get a little muddy. It is difficult to use a beneficial spell in a manner that would be dangerous. Not impossible. Gamers are creative. But aggressive spells, damaging spells, spells designed to do harm, tend to be significantly different than ones that are designed to aid a person or give assistance. So if you are trying to cast uh, a healing spell on someone or attempting to use, for example, here's a good example, telekinesis. Telekinesis is a general spell that can be used in lots of different ways. It could, for example, allow you to pick up an unconscious person who has fallen down a cliff. You can't reach them. You can reach them, pick them up, bring them up to you, where now you can lend first aid at least, or healing magic of some variety. But it's also possible to use telekinesis to push someone off a cliff. That's an example of a spell that could be used, you know, for either harm or help. And if it's the former, you're trying to help. You're trying to lift the guy off that ledge down there that they've fallen onto, onto the cliff down to that ledge. Yeah, they would be considered a willing participant. That they're would want you to help them. All right. If they were conscious and you could throw them a rope, they would agree to that. Same principle here. They're unconscious. They need to get up. They can't climb a rope to get up there themselves. Maybe you are no look. Maybe you don't have a rope. Maybe you suck at climbing, and maybe you're just really good with telekinesis. So you pick them up and you lay them down next to you for aid. But healing magic, it's hard to hurt somebody with healing magic unless they are some form of undead. And if you find someone lying there and it's undead and they're not responding, that's going to be an unusual circumstance if they're still technically not dead. Um, but you could potentially hurt somebody, but you would have no way of knowing that unless you had some ability to determine that they were in fact, the undead. And spells that do direct harm, spells that poison or spells that do energy damage, things like that, those are unquestionably not going to be a willing victim, a willing target. You're not going to agree to have somebody hit you with a lightning bolt spell if you're already unconscious. You don't want to be struck with lightning. You wouldn't want to be struck with lightning if you were awake. You sure as shoot don't want to be struck with lightning if you're unconscious already. So for me, that's a very straightforward answer to that. Does it fall into the same category as the Good Samaritan law? If I genuinely am attempting to lend aid, even if I fail, I am protected by the Good Samaritan law because I made a good faith effort. If I find a guy that's unconscious and I drop a boulder on him, that does not fall into the category of this Good Samaritan law. That was not a good faith gesture. That was an attempt to murder someone. Um, Maybe you're the person that knocked him unconscious and you just want to finish the project at hand. But I think that that's pretty solid ground for a ruling in my book. That if they're unconscious and you can lend assistance, that they would be considered a willing target to that magic. So let's talk about consent and spellcasting. This could be an interesting topic. We could get into the weeds on this one, I think. And I know a couple of people who are probably going to have interesting things to say, and I'm looking forward to what they have to say with both interest and trepidation.